Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be doing another box office preview for this upcoming weekend as we finally have the Box Office Pro projections, which have Paramount's Scream 5 projected to make $29.8 million over the weekend frame, with $33.7 million through the holiday weekend. So the 4-day total for that, as it is coming out in over 3,500 screens, where Spider-Man No Way Home is expected to finally drop to the number 2 spot with 19.9 to 24.9 million based on the 3 and 4 day frames respectively, but is expected to surpass $700 million domestically, putting this film over the edge against some other domestic competitors of all-time records. So, before going any further into this bit of news, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure you're subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So, Scream 5, as we were talking about yesterday, the early estimates were that the film was going to make around $20 million over the weekend frame. It looks like for Box Office Pro, based on their metrics, they are projecting it to be a little bit higher, around $30 million instead, with $33.7 million for the actual weekend frame. Looking at some of their ranges for Scream, it's $25 to $35 million, and so if this film falls beneath the $25 million for the weekend, that will mean it is underperforming, and the 4-day total is going to be somewhere between 28 and 39, meaning that this film theoretically could get close to $40 million, and I just don't see it. Again, they obviously at Box Office Pro, Deadline, and all these other industry so-called experts, a lot of them have access to various pieces of information. They have their own algorithms, they have their own equations, and so I'm assuming that they've got some bit of information to be able to utilize to get to these numbers, but I just honestly do not see how a film like Scream, let alone Scream 5, is going to be able to do this. I know that there's been a big push in the marketing for this film of nostalgia, right? So it's been over 10 years since the last film came out, and so they're trying to use some of the original characters that are still alive in this universe to be able to try and push more people to go and see it. I guess people who are part of the Scream, franchise and part of the Scream, fan base. The issue, though, is that the Scream fan base is really not very large at all. I mean, I was showing this the other day that the last Scream film barely had, $100 million or so at the box office. We'll go ahead and look at those numbers again. But again, I don't really know exactly what Paramount was thinking in making this movie, because there really isn't a major Scream faction out there that's going to be able to bring in mass profits. Now, there is, I would say, a pretty good argument to be made that this film, it has a pretty easy job ahead of itself to be able to make its money back, because the budget was only around $24 million, meaning that the break-even is just about $60 million or so. So it does not have a whole lot of money to make, even just domestically, let alone worldwide, in order to get to that point of profitability. But it's going to be really, I think, small profits in the long run. And so it just makes you question, okay, so Paramount, are you really just going to sacrifice any sense of originality that you don't really have at this point, putting out, and this is for all studios really, putting out nonstop sequels and reboots, etc., and just going now with the 5th installment of Scream, which no one was asking for, and even no one was asking for the previous, 4th Scream film, and I don't even know about the others, but I don't know, this just seems a little bit odd to me as a move, and so, I don't know, I kind of question this, but obviously they might have access to certain metrics here. I know that if it was me going to the theater this weekend, if I had no family obligations or anything like that, I would be going to see Spider-Man again, because the film is just a lot of fun. And I suspect that there will be a lot of people that will still go to see Spider-Man this weekend. And it'll be interesting to see if people are under-projecting Spider-Man, even though it's been out obviously for going on 4 or 5 weeks now. It is not going to be making, crazy amounts of money, because most of the people have already seen it. But it will be interesting to see at this holiday frame, anyone who's left for any reason who hasn't seen the film might actually go out to see it. Sing 2 expected to make $8.7 million, so a 25% drop, and that's kind of big, right? We have Spider-Man No Way Home, a 39% drop in its later weeks. So once again, Scotty Boy Mendelsohn, screw you. 25% drop for Sing 2, a 57% drop for the 355 in its second week of release, which is not the worst drop that we've ever seen before, but seeing that this will put its total domestic at 8.4 million, yeah, we got a giant flop well on the way. The Kingsman also, even though it is having strong drops, is still not making a lot because it didn't make a lot in its opening weekend. Really not doing a whole lot there. Same thing with American Underdog, didn't really make a lot, but still don't really know exactly how much this film cost and what it therefore needs to break even. West Side Story is still hanging around, but it's running out of theaters, and even though this is a movie that's probably going to get some Oscar buzz around it, it's not going to be enough to make up for the still $100 million loss of a film. As with Matrix Resurrections, not likely to get Oscar buzz, but hey, who knows? Again, losing theaters and $36.1 million domestic. Who would have thought that, even though a lot of us are like, okay, really another Matrix film, but who would have thought that a Matrix film would be making only $36 million domestically? That just kind of shows you how bad this movie is, how poorly received this film was. Because you can blame HBO Max until the cows come home, but at the end of the day, there are plenty of films this year that made over $100 million on HBO Max, or rather that had day-and-date release on HBO Max, that kind of defeat that whole narrative nonetheless. Ghostbusters Afterlife is also still hanging around a little bit, but it is, again, very close to being out of theaters, as it is getting very close to its at-home release. And so this is a movie that, again, as of a few days ago, officially broke even and is now able to say that it is making profit at this point. And so this is just going to be extra profits to add on top of that. And Lord knows, of course, it will be making a pretty hefty amount in the DVD and Blu-ray sale market as well. Going into a bit of the financials for Scream 5, as I mentioned, the projected budget for the film is $24 million, which means the total cost with marketing, so typical marketing cost, you take the budget, multiply it by 1.5, that gives you the total cost with marketing. That would bring it to $36 million, which means the break even, which we remind ourselves that it means that the studio gets around 60% of the inevitable box office receipts, and then you subtract the total cost, and that would mean $60 million would be the bare minimum it would need to get to the point of being able to pay off what it spent on the film after getting its 60% cut from the box office. Another way of doing it actually is to multiply the budget by 2.5 and to get you to the same number. So interesting there. It does not need to make a whole lot of money in order for it to reach that point. And we were talking about this the other day as well, that if we look at some of the, the future, or rather the past films for Scream, we realize that it really isn't it really isn't a powerful franchise, right? It really isn't a franchise at this point in time, at least compared to even the last film, that has any real sense of major box office or major fan base. So if we go ahead and try and pull up here some of the numbers, so obviously it's going to be hard because these names get kind of derivative over time. It's like, okay, where do I find Scream 4? There's Scream 4. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so we got Scream from 2022 versus Scream 4 from 2011. And just to give you an idea, we'll actually, we'll adjust these numbers for inflation just to get a better idea. So that means that Scream 4 cost about almost twice as much as what Scream 2022 is going to cost, and yet the film's worldwide box office was only $110 million. So though one could argue that Scream 4 was able to make its money back, and again, I haven't done the calculations on that, but actually I can go ahead and do a quick calculation for you. Because of this metrics, it's a lot easier to do when you're just multiplying it by a single number. So 46, so the total budget was $46 million. So you multiply that by 2.5, and that would make it $115 million. So actually, it didn't break even. So you have this film in Scream 4, the last film that came out, didn't break even. Didn't break even by much, right? It didn't lose a hell of a lot of money. Just lost a few $1 million, really. And it probably made that up in Blu-ray and 4K sales, or rather Blu-ray sales back at that point. Blu-ray and DVD sales, because there are, again, $100 million being spent to go see this film means that there are people willing to go see it, which means there are people that are going to be willing to actually buy this film and own it. So there is, I guess you could say, part of fan base, but when you're cutting the budget by half and you're looking at maybe a max point of $100 million, it starts to make you kind of question exactly what they're going to be able to do. Also, the domestic opening weekend for Scream 4 was only $21.5 million when you adjust for inflation. So the fact that this film, for some reason, is receiving this kind of hype or is expected to make as much money as it is expected to make just seems odd to me. Now, again, we haven't taken into account what Scream 4 was up against at the box office. It was a lot more competitive. Obviously, when we talk about the box office now, pretty much the only film that's been out that's had any type of splash and any type of impact has been Spider-Man. So this is really the first major film, because again, 355 definitely doesn't count, that I guess is getting released that has some name recognition attached to it. It just seems, again, a weird thing to choose to actually go ahead with this film in this capacity. So yeah, as I said, $8.5 million it made, again, estimated for a home market release. So that would have been enough to make its money back because of how close it was. Again, 2.4 times the production budget, 2.5 times the production budget means that it would have broken even. And so that $8 million would have pushed that over the edge there to make its money back, but not by a whole lot. So I really don't quite understand exactly, what they are thinking here by trying to put out a fifth film in a franchise that is arguably just not really there for fans. Again, $100 million barely talking about worldwide, and you're expecting to make more than that this time around? I don't know. It's just weird to me. And so that's why I do call into question these numbers. We'll, of course, have to wait and see. Again, maybe there's something going on in pre-sales. Maybe there's something going on in social media campaigns. I will say that the marketing has been pretty robust as far as pushing out trailers and pushing out things like that. But from what we've been told, as far as people who have seen the film, the movie is all about the subversion of expectations, which has been pretty much the go-to for so many of these film franchises, especially the horror film franchises, that just want to, crap all over the fans and just crap all over the people who have been the ones supporting it, like the very few people that have been supporting the Scream franchise. Apparently, they're just going to get crapped on. So even if it is able to kind of squeeze out these kind of numbers, something tells me that if you subvert the expectations of fans and if you piss them off, all you're going to end up doing is pushing people away from it, which means you're going to have a massive second weekend fallout. And obviously, being a Paramount film means that there's going to be a Paramount Plus release, probably 45-day theatrical window is typical for a lot of these platforms that don't do day-and-date releases. So I think that will have a long-term impact on it as well. And so if this film does break even because of its small budgets, I would say that that is already too much money and too much profit for it just to be broken even. But these are the numbers as they stand. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that Scream's going to be able to pull it out? Are you one of the persons that this film was made for? Are you looking forward to having your expectations subverted? I can say that I'm not really a Scream fan. I saw the first one, and I felt like that was enough. But hey, apparently there are some fans out there. So let me know your thoughts about this and anything else that we mentioned in the comments section down below. Let's see if we can actually find the Scream franchise while I'm thinking about it. This is, again, not really known to be a massive entity here. So let's see. Worldwide box office, Scream 4, 95, Scream 3, 161. So you can see there's been diminishing returns every single time. Now, these are, of course, without adjusting for inflation. But you can see that they've had diminishing returns even though their budgets have been going up. And then it just fell off with Scream 4. So I just, again, they're going back to their roots, I guess, with having a $24 million production budget. Remember that this would have been higher. In fact, it's probably, when you adjust for inflation, closer to the original budget. But I don't see it. I don't see it. Again, they're talking about this being one of the highest grossing weekends of the franchise when you adjust for inflation, which, again, it's just insane to me. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting first off with Locals, shout out to Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Biffer DeHobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. Also a shout out to my Subscribe Star people, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson once again, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And lastly, to my Patreon supporters, my 30 Patreon supporters over there, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ellen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, N, Tina Bojan, and of course, Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all so very much for your love and for your support. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and at the end of every video, please make sure that you support me over on Patreon, Subscribestar, or on Locals. Also, you get a ton of other goodies if you support at the Army of Asgard level and above. Starting at the Army of Asgard level, you get access to various giveaways that I do during the month, including various 4K titles. Many of them 4K Steelbook titles, and so if you want access to that, check out the Army of Asgard level on those platforms specifically. You also get access, once you are a Keeper of the Bifrost level member, to that, plus a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you actually get to ask us questions, and also, of course, get access to that and the library of previous podcast episodes. We're up to about 33 episodes now that we have been able to do. I think most of those episodes now at this point we've actually done it together, which has been a lot of fun. And of course, you can join at the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, Chosen of Valhalla live stream level, where you get access to not only all of those things, but also you get access to be featured on the channel once a month during the Chosen of Valhalla live stream with the other Chosen members, which is always a lot of fun. Also, during your first month, you get a free t-shirt sent anywhere in the world. You just let me know your size. Let me know the t-shirt that you want from the store over on Teespring or on TeePublic, whichever you prefer, and I will gladly send that out to you if you're at that level. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.